I think it was around the age 8 years old that I first started to think that there was something wrong with my body. I remember swimming in my backyard, and my brother's best friend lived behind us, and he would open the sliding glass door and make whale noises at me. I remember being in junior high, being fed Slim Fast with no conversation of healthy choices for my body. Become sophomore year, I became a rape survivor. If you've ever experienced sexual assault, you know how much it can destroy you. And it felt like the only thing of value was my body. I told one person that something had happened, and I thought it was being taken care of in a way that teenagers do. And then that person believed them over me and initiated beating me until I couldn't move and brought my rapist to watch. From that moment, I didn't tell a soul until I got older. It was just another event in my life that I allowed to dictate my worth. Going into my senior year in high school, I was sick a lot. I'd lost a lot of weight. And I remember it being prom night. I was doing my makeup in my parents' bedroom. My mom came in and she was like, "Your dad wanted me to tell you that you look beautiful tonight." And we weren't a family that spoke like that. I knew my parents loved me, but we didn't say things like that. So I internalized that as only being worthy of being told I was beautiful because I'd lost weight. When I moved to Chicago, it gave me the ultimate sense of freedom. I got to tattoo, pierce, dress how I wanted. I got to discover who I was. But unfortunately, with that came a lot of unhealthy decisions for my body and my mind. Freedom without boundaries is destructive. So by the time I graduated and moved home, I was met with a lot of conversation that I would never get a good job, never get a good man looking the way that I did. So it became my personal mission to prove people wrong, but not out of strength, out of bitterness, which eventually led to even more unhealthy decisions for my body and my mind. I always say this body was built by Portillo's and bitterness. Thank you. Thank you. In my 20s, I entered a toxic relationship that always made me feel like another woman was better than me, but also toxic because I didn't love myself enough to set any boundaries. In 2012, the next big event happened. I gave birth to twins with a rare condition who passed away within 27 hours of birth. It felt like even my body was telling me my body isn't good enough. Everything in my life was validating all of those negative thoughts in my head about my body. And instead of pushing back against that, I chose to believe it and allow it to dictate who I was. I knew deep down inside who I was and who I was meant to be, but it was like the world was fighting against me, trying to put me in this box of a fat girl who isn't worthy of good things in life. I can remember having conversations with people. They'd look at my face, then look at my stomach, then back at my face. They didn't have to say anything. I assumed I knew exactly what they were thinking. So when I started doing photography in my studio, it became my personal mission to make sure that no woman ever felt how I felt about myself every single day. I was not in a good place in my home life, and that toxicity almost destroyed me. I remember hitting rock bottom August 21st, 2018. I told someone in my life that I had hit rock bottom and that I wanted to die. The response to that was, "I hate you." And in that moment, instead of thinking, wow, this person doesn't deserve to be in my life, all those years of allowing other people's opinions to dictate who I was led me to think, wow, how lucky am I that someone can despise me so much and still choose to stay. That led me down a very dark path. At that point, I was ready to die. In my mind, I was obviously a burden to those around me and not worthy of the things that I thought I deserved. And it wasn't until one day in my studio, I had a client come in. And after her appointment, she texted me, and she said, "You aren't okay. What's wrong?" And that was the first time that I thought, like, someone saw me. They saw everything that I thought I was hiding so well. And it was through that new friendship that I chose to fight. It was in that moment that that I chose me. It took me a couple years in a divorce to really force me to see myself for who I really was. I am worthy of love and happiness. I am worthy of good things. And I have been worthy of these things this whole time. And so I let it continue to be my mission at my studio that no woman ever feels how I felt about myself, including my 9-year-old daughter. Then life changed again, and someone entered my daughter's life that started to undo all the self-love and body positivity that I had infused in her since childhood. And I realized that this fight never ends. I have to be vigilant. I have to be self-aware to make sure that she is ahead of where I was at her age. It is my job to make sure that she understands having a beautiful face doesn't mean a thing if you don't have a beautiful soul. It is my job to make sure that she understands you don't judge people for their bodies. So I make sure to have the uncomfortable conversations. Because we might think that 9 years old is too young to have conversations like that, but I can promise you I started those conversations as soon as she was able to speak. It will be ingrained in her that your soul is what matters and how you treat other people is what matters. Have the uncomfortable conversations. Just do it. And so between my mission in the studio with women who come in to celebrate their bodies and the job I have as a mother to a 9-year-old girl, I will never stop choosing to help people love themselves. I encourage everyone to give random compliments. If you see something you like about someone, you tell them. If someone does something kind, acknowledge it. Let your kids witness that. The world tells us every day what we shouldn't be, but we get to decide who we are, and I recommend you choose wisely. And remember the neighbor boy who made whale noises at me? Well, he friend requested me about a month and a half ago. Thanks, but no thanks, I'm good.